The Academic Staff Union of Universities threatens to start another strike today over federal government's failure to meet its demands. The president of the union will be speaking with us this morning. And the Borno state government and elders agreed to accept hundreds of Boko Haram members who have renounced the group. Also, away from insecurity challenges, let's talk movies now. Of course, Kemi Adetipa produced King of Boys debuts and, of course, has created loads of conversations across social media here in Nigeria. A lot of excitement also. And with that, we say good morning and welcome to a Tuesday morning's edition of The Breakfast here on Plus TV Africa. I am Osaugie Ogbonwa. Great to have you join me. And, of course, I'm a Lone Ranger again today until Aneta is fully back to work. Thanks for joining me. I'll start with the top trending stories across Nigeria that we're sharing with you today. I'll start first of all with the ASUU strike. It's another conversation that we're getting into, and very likely we will be joined this morning by the ASUU president, who will be joining us to share his views on the threats to once again go on strike. The association has given the Nigerian government till today, Tuesday, 31st of August, to, of course, address their demands or go back on strike. The message from the ASUU chairman basically says that the federal government has stopped taking their calls and has completely ignored their demands that were signed in the Memorandum of Action, the Memorandum of Understanding. If you remember, not long ago, they had one of the longest strikes on record, and that was eventually called off when they, signed some Memorandum of Action with the federal government about 22 billion naira that was meant to be paid, revitalization fund, and some of all of that. And also the controversy concerning the IPPIS and UTAS. But the ASUU chairman says that the federal government, since that agreement was signed, has ignored the body and, of course, hasn't gone through and played its part in the agreement that was signed. And so they are threatening that they might once again return to the strike from today. Hopefully we get some clarity on what the situation is, and if there have been somehow, somewhere, any conversations between the federal government and ASUU in the last few months. It's really, really frightening for a lot of Nigerians, and that's some of the comments that I've seen. A lot of people begging ASUU to please let them, go to the next level in their universities. Please let us graduate. Please, hold on so we can at least finish, our 300 level or 200 level or whichever one that they are in. And those are some of the comments, that I've seen in reaction to this. There's those who have completely just, given up hope concerning, schooling in Nigeria, going to university in Nigeria. And you can't blame them. A four-year course in Nigeria, what people would say is that if you're taking a four-year course, expect to finish it in 6 years because of the strikes here and there. We've spoken extensively about the government's investment in education and the interest really of the Nigerian government in education. There are certain things that should be top priorities for every government. Education definitely is one of them. Healthcare, infrastructure. And if you're thinking about what the country hopes to achieve in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, what is its developmental plan, what is its plan for its young people, education should be one of those things that should never be joked with. Do you think that ASUU is asking for too much? Do you think that they're maybe being too, stubborn-headed? That's a totally different conversation. But it's once again another, discussion on how the Nigerian government, same with what we talked about yesterday concerning the Nigerian Medical Association. Pretty much the same, thing, how the Nigerian government signs agreements, gets into memorandum of understanding so, a strike can be called off. and then just completely goes to sleep. There is no action taken after that agreement is signed. There is no, further discussions and some of all of that. And eventually you hear about a new strike. The NMA, the NARD, pretty much the same, situation. And that's, really one of the things that we very likely will be talking about today. Why does that happen? Why does the government sign this memorandum of action? What is the, bureaucracy around this? What exactly makes it difficult for them to be able to fulfill the promises made to these bodies? And then we can also dig deeper and see how ASU itself and the NARD and some of the other bodies across the country that might be threatening strike can, also find a way to balance things out, to find a way to understand, that this is where Nigeria is. Maybe the country can't afford some of all these things. Maybe, they need to give the government more time. It's really, really, tiring for a lot of Nigerians. We're currently dealing with a health, system where a lot of people can't get proper health care in the hospitals because doctors are on strike. Well, resident doctors are on strike. How are we going to add that to students being sent home because, well, ASU is on strike? How much of this torture, it's mentally draining for a lot of Nigerians who really just want to make it, to the next level in life. And that's really what it is. They just want to make it to the next level in life. They just want to be able to go to the hospital and get treatment. They just want to go to university and get a degree after 4 or 5 years and continue with their lives. But when you take 2 years, you take a whole year out of a person's educational journey, because of one strike or the other, it makes it harder for the average Nigerian. There's a lot of people who are emigrating, moving to a different country entirely, struggling, borrowing money so that they can get, to be able to afford school fees in a totally different country or in a private university. You can imagine what parents have to deal with to be able to fund their children, 3, 4 kids through private universities, simply because they don't want to deal with some of all the strikes that Nigerian government universities experience. So it's tiring, and I'm sure every single Nigerian feels this way. Both, ASU and people, in the federal government's side, and of course the students and parents. It is tiring that we have to keep dealing with this, but hopefully there is no strike. Hopefully, these calls for strike could be averted. Let's see what the conversation is like today when we speak with ASU chairman sometime on the breakfast this morning. Also, something else that is trending, and I'll go to a little bit of entertainment now, and that is Kemi Adetiba's King of Boys. That is currently the most talked about movie across Nigeria. Nothing else beats that. I don't think there's any other conversation concerning movies that isn't King of Boys. Also, well, because of the first one that came out and then sequel that was released a few days ago, it is phenomenal according to what everyone has described. The cast, the acting, every single detail of it. There have, of course, been criticism here and there, but it cannot overweigh or be more than the praises that the movie has gotten. Kemi Adetiba has also spoken with regards piracy and how she fears that the movie might also be pirated, and Nigerian actors and movie producers may not get every single penny that they should get because of pirates, which is a sincere concern. And it's something that we've heard about for a very, very long time concerning movies, movie producers, even, in the music industry. And that really is one of the reasons that we've seen a shift in the way that music sales are carried out here in Nigeria. We don't have the regular format that you might see in a different country where albums are released and they can swear that they've sold 500,000 copies or they've sold 1 million copies or 5 million copies. In Nigeria, it's a totally different picture, and the same thing with movies. But I feel, it's a work in progress. There's still a lot of, tightening loose ends here and there, in the industry. And as long as we continue to put out great works like The King of Boys, then, in some time, hopefully in the next year, hopefully in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we'll get to a place where piracy is no longer an issue. But congratulations to the cast, congratulations to Kemi Adetiba. And we hope, that she continues to make great, great blockbuster movies, just like The King of Boys. If you haven't seen it, you probably should go check it out. All right, also on our top trending stories for today, and this one, back to politics. Aisha Yusufu, one of the conveners of the Bring Back Our Girls group, 2 days ago, I believe, once again put out her statements concerning the similarities between the APC and the PDP. It's not the first time that we've seen, her make such statements, and she's not the only one. A few other people have also made such similarities. But in the last 2 days, it has come with a lot of response, a lot of backlash from people who have basically said, stop. Mostly because they don't agree that these two political parties are one and the same. Some of the analysts that we've also interviewed or spoken with on this platform have mentioned that, that it's simply two political parties that have been used as platforms, for politicians to jump from one to the other and, of course, achieve their political goals. Which, yes, a lot of people would agree with. They've also said that, if you look at the current APC or the current PDP, you can basically see a lot of people who were in this other party 2 years ago are now in this one. And it basically means that it's the same thing. And that, I believe, is Aisha Yusufu's argument. But the response that I've seen from lots of people have basically said, stop it, because it's obviously not true. And the reasons they give is because the times, yes, you might say the two political parties, people basically jump from one to the other. But the energy, the governance, the respect for the rule of law, the respect for leadership, and some of all those little details here and there, since 1999 until 2015, were completely different from what we're currently experiencing in Nigeria. They say to Aisha Yusufu, you are currently sharing this message with a VPN, not even freely. Some of the campaign that, made you popular as a person, and that mostly is the Bring Back Our Girls campaign on the former President Goodluck Jonathan, when the Chibok girls were kidnapped. Some of all those campaigns have gone under. You never, when is the last time any of you was out in the streets freely protesting? Those are some of the things that they've pointed out. And of course, also pointed out the ban on Twitter, the, government's move concerning cryptocurrency, and some of all the, other moves, and said, do you imagine that if the same government rather was in power since 1999, do you think we would have gotten to where we are today with regards, information technology, telecoms, and some of all those things? And they've argued completely against that and said that it's very likely that the current Nigerian government wouldn't have allowed the level of growth that Nigeria witnessed since 1999 with regards to telecommunications and in IT and, of course, some basic infrastructure. Those are some of the strong points. Someone also pointed out Deji Adeonju and the difference between Deji Adeonju and Dawisu. If you remember, Dawisu used to work for the Kano state government, I believe. Deji Adeonju was one of the fiercest critics of former President Goodluck Jonathan. And he said that during that time, Deji Adeonju was still freely, protesting and sharing his views, condemning the government every now and then. But Dawisu, who tried it in the current administration, was kicked out and eventually had to leave Nigeria. And there's many, many of these examples of people who tried to critique the current administration and didn't survive it. If you remember also, there's a particular guy who's been missing for more than a year now, somewhere in Kaduna. Can't remember his name. So these are some of the points that people have made in response to that argument, that the two political parties are one and the same. And they've said it's absolutely not true. Some other thing that I've seen that people mention is that this is a conversation. And if you see most of the people making this conversation, you would see a lot of people countering it from the PDP side, but you would, see silence from the APC side. And they've said that this is because in order to keep the APC in power beyond 2023 is important to draw similarities between the two parties so that Nigerians can say, well, there's really no need bringing back the PDP, well, because they are one and the same. So why don't we just continue with the APC's candidate or continue with, whatever it is, programs that the APC is bringing forth. And that is one of the things that I've seen people point out, that is a very, very sleek and tricky way to ensure that you basically convince Nigerians that they're one and the same party and there's no need to change. It's a lot of interesting political discussions. You probably need to look out for it on social media. The conversation concerning, the APC and the PDP, are they one and the same? But, one thing that I also, read is someone saying, if you really feel, if you're really being honest with yourself, think about governance from 1999 to 2007 all the way till 2015. Think about the way that the Nigerian government felt, the freedom to express yourself, the freedom to criticize, somehow, some way. Yes, there are things that should be pointed out also, the OD massacre and some other, places here and there that, government basically went on to clamp down what they felt were threats to the Nigerian state. But think about how the country basically was growing, according to these people at that time, and compare it with what we're seeing today. Compare it with the price of goods in the market, compare it with, the government's high-handedness, compare it with, the recklessness with which security agencies carry out their activities. Now we hear about the EFCC barging into hotel rooms, and arresting people, randomly. Now, of course, we heard about SARS. We heard about, there's so many of these issues that the government has failed to address. And those are some of the points that they've made to, basically, push their argument that the PDP is a completely different party from the APC. Even if you might argue that, yes, it's the same politicians here and there, but the energy, the governance was totally different. That's our final top trending story this morning. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, Chris Wandu will be joining us with Off the Press. We'll, of course, go through the major news stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning and share with you. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there's regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the results of tomorrow's election. You have it already, have you?
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say. The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
Great to have you here on The Breakfast once again. Thanks for joining us. It is now time for Off the Press, where we have a review of the major stories making headlines across Nigeria today. And starting this morning with the Punch newspapers, just before we introduce our guest. Should be on your screen in just a few seconds. The big one there is talking about the ASU strike. It says, strike. ASU accuses federal government of deceit as minister explains payment delay. Government dishonest. Transferring money from CBN shouldn't be difficult. University lecturers insist. We'll make our decisions known. Today's ultimatum stands. Academic Staff Union of Universities is saying. Also, government pursuing CBN to disburse revitalization fund, says Education Minister. Airlines suffer 28.5% drop in domestic aircraft movement. Also, conflicting judgments, NBA to meet CJN. Mohammed summons 6 chief judges. Federal government presents budget October, targets 3 billion euros from Eurobonds. Also, 21-day notice, NMA blames federal government, faults suit. Still on the Punch this morning, Lagos NAFDAC shot toxic chemical plant, arrest 4. NDA invasion, more troubles coming, Fadambaka warns. Also, DSS bows to pressure, releases 8 Igboho's aides. Still on the Punch, autumn fumes as Akume calls for emergency rule in Benue. Lagos transport worker dies during fight over 500 naira bet. And finally, Amechi's confession confirmed deep corruption in Buhari's regime, says the PDP. Now on the Nigerian Tribune this morning, September 1st anti-open grazing deadline, where southern states stand. Conflicting court orders. CJN summons chief judges of Rivers, Kebbi, Imo, Anambra, and 2 other states. Also this morning, Kano has 2 million drug addicts, says the NDLEA boss. Nigerian government must end crimes of enforced disappearance, says Amnesty International. DSS releases 8 out of 12 associates of Igboho. And also, Plateau State military warns residents against self-defense. I think I'd like our guests to definitely speak on that one. CBN unveils guidelines, sets transfer limits for e-Naira. Akume, other APC leaders demand state of emergency in Benue. All right, from the Tribune, let's move over to the Nation newspapers. Mark Parnell links PDP crisis to Wike Secondus. Crazy bills. Residents shot Akure BEDC office. And also, 4th week of Southeast Ghost Monday turns bloody. Still on the Nation this morning, retrieve arms from repentant terrorists. And that's from the Borno State Governor. Finance Minister, economy on recovery path and growing. Federal government to finance 2022 budget deficit with 6.1 billion euros. And finally, on the Nation, court rejects Malami's application to vacate order on Igboho. Ondo makes COVID-19 vaccination compulsory. I'm going to quickly just throw in a few from the Daily Independent this morning. Structural imbalances overshadow 2021 GDP growth. 5.01% GDP to be felt on industries and unemployment drop, says the federal government. Says we are borrowing sensibly, investing in infrastructure and others. PDP stakeholders move to zone chairmanship position to North, want party to throw presidential ticket open. Also on the Daily Independent, party crisis, CJN summons 6 chief judges over conflicting orders. 8 Igboho's aides freed from DSS custody. Again, courts rejects AGF and DSS plea to arrest Sunday Igboho. Still on the Daily Independent, banks, markets close in Enugu despite suspension of sit-at-home order. And then CBN names BIT Incorporated technical partner for digital currency project. Encourage more Boko Haram members to surrender, says Lawan. I'm going to stop there so we can quickly bring in our guest this morning, Chris Wandu, publisher of CKN News. Thanks for joining us. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, so it's not a story that has made all the papers, but I think it's an interesting one, and that is the story in The Nation, or the Tribune rather, saying Plateau State military warns residents against self-defense. Quickly, let's have your thoughts on that story first.
If the military has one rent against self-defense, what mechanism are they putting in place to be able to make sure that they are secured? Have they been able to secure the state? On the daily basis, they are getting killed in their tent, and the military and the police and all the security agencies seem hopeless and helpless in the situation. You expect me to just keep my hand at go while people come to my house to slaughter me, and I will not defend myself. There is nowhere in the world. This is what happened. There's no what such happens. Every human being has the right to defend himself when being attacked. So the only way they can be able to defend themselves is making sure that those coming after them to kill them for whatever reason, they retaliate or be able to defend themselves. So that coming from the military to me is a no-no. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but Mr. Wandu, is this the army
to secure my life? That is only when I will listen to that.
Yeah, this is what I want to get. Is this, does this sound like the army is equating self-defense to reprisal attacks?
Whichever one they for, whichever one they're saying, the statement is that people should not go into defense. So whether it's reprisal attacks or normal defense against assault or killing, the fact is that people have rights to defend themselves. So the military, as it will not sit in their barracks and then see people coming to rampage their barracks, and they say, no, we will not attack back, or we will not defend ourselves. So, even at that, it is not even the duty of the military to say. The responsibility for security of life and property within the country is the of the police. The army practically or duty has not their mandate is to defend the country against external aggression. It's not every time that you get the military to get engaged in civil issues, internal security. That is when we find ourselves because of the peculiar situation we're in. But ordinarily, that has really come to police, as long as it may be, but that might still be big. But coming from the army, army has not to do with internal security in any part of the world. So they are helping other internal security agencies like police to be able to make sure that there is law and order. But asking people to come not defend themselves, I don't think they are serious about that.
All right, still talking security now. Let's move to Benue, where there's a story saying Akume and other APC leaders demand state of emergency in Benue. Governor Otom has of course, reacted to that and spoken against it. And, basically painted it, as a political struggle or, as the APC's way of trying to derail his government in the state. What are your thoughts?
APC is in charge of security across, at least the security agency is under the control of the federal government. We're talking of me now, the Navy, NSDC, limits. They are under command of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, who is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In this case, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, an APC member, and the President Muhammadu Buhari. For you to now say you want to declare a state of emergency, then the blame should go to of the President, the federal government, because the state government have no single security apparatus except set up all these local vigilantes being set up by several other states. But come to think of it, have also the APC fans have also called for the declaration of state of emergency in Katsina, in Borno, even that we are not come on to in Zamfara. And so many northern where people are being killed on a daily basis. Have they also displayed that in Ghana? that has become a battleground and is killing a theater of people, of which recently some pilots and some others were killed. So when they make this statement, you can't continue to wonder, could that be part of the problem? Is that the whole idea? Because you are not doing that. Probably what are the insecurity within the more engineer by it was just engineered by that so that the state of agency can be declared as state. I think our leaders should be very, very careful in their utterance. They should be part of the solution and not part of the problem. They are people. I don't know what the government of Benue State. They knew what happened and so government. There are so many. Did they ask that in the state of emergency? I'm just
also bear in mind in the last few weeks there has been a back and forth between the Benue State Governor Otom and the federal government, basically exchanging words here and there, and that's one of the things that also.
Don't forget that Otom is also a minister on the job.
Go ahead.
I'm saying that forget that the minister on that is dead. So definitely back the government against another part. So that's not the right thing. You have thought that statement that state. They should be talking about what has it done to be able to give some level of solutions to the problem more. If there's a problem, has they found this limitation to the statement and they do not adhere to it? So for me, it's neither here nor there. It's just being politically correct in statement, but that is not the way to go.
All right. Now let's talk ASU, which of course is on the punch this morning. Says ASU accuses federal government of deceit. As minister explains payments delay. They have also threatened to once again go back on strike from Tuesday, the 31st of August.
In the last 2 weeks, when I've done this program, we've talked at the NAD, the doctors strike. You will realize that every time I'm talking about that strike, I always mention ASU and TU. I said NAD is going way of ASU because the government signed an agreement with ASU. Today, they have not implemented that. And so for us to come out now to accuse the government of deceit, and the minister tried to justify that agreement has been implemented and payment not after several months is very, very funny. Talking about moving from central bank, the account, making payment. How long does it take to move money from Central Bank of Nigeria to accounts of banks? How long does it take? In this digital age, I don't physically, even if they are going to physically move the cash from the United States of America and they are up in their treasury, I'm not taking a flight from the US to Nigeria, which is about a direct flight is just about 12-13 hours early from the US. Within 24 hours, that money was into Nigeria. I think it was in the US. But in our own central, a digital transfer funds from central bank accounts, and you say that he's taking time the rest of them. But that is the way, that's the government we have in place. That is the kind of things we see on a daily basis. That is Nigeria for you. A situation where the government signed an agreement with union and relate on it. The next thing you see the minister do, you run to the industrial court to ask for an injunction to stop ASU from going to strike, going on strike. ASU was on strike for close to 1 year, if not over 1 year. And they call off that strike, and you have an agreement with them. The students are suffering. I will tell you for free that in fact, some of those students, if those of them that enter the university the same time with those private university, most of the private university students are already graduated. Why do others universities, either in their 12 level, just going through their second semester 200 level, or just sign in 300 level? Also, a full-day academic this thing was cancelled. It's cancelled. Most places cancelled full-day academic session. Unilag, so many of them cancelled things. That means that students have to stay back to repeat a whole year. And our ministers and our government are not feeling that. If I come to a situation where Nigeria practically going to self-help, education is not affordable, people have to go to private university. Electricity is not affordable, people resort to generate. There's no water, you dig your borehole. There's no security, you have to do your own private. Where you live, you see that the street is now contributing for security, private security. That is what Nigeria has to do. Everybody has gone to self. Government have totally collapsed in their responsibility to the city, and that is the situation we find ourselves.
All right, Chris Wandula. Now let's move away from ASU's discussion and move to the judiciary. In the last few weeks, there have been some very shocking court judgments, ex parte orders here and there, stay of judgment, from different states. And in reaction to that, the CJN, it's on the Nigerian Tribune this morning, it says conflicting court orders. CJN summons chief judges of Rivers, Kebbi, Imo, Anambra, and 2 other states, very likely to address these very embarrassing judgments that are being, shared like party packs across the states. Quickly also speak on that.
It's very unfortunate that we're talking about the judiciary in this life. As a student of law, I remember in my 200 that part of the constitution that I was taught is that the court of coordinate decision cannot be able to annul or for whatever to give any judgment that has also been given by another court of the same coordinate jurisdiction. If you understand what I mean? If a court has given an order, another high court in any part of the country cannot give any ruling on that has been made by a high court. If you have any problem with that, where you to the court of appeal. But a situation where it has various judges within the same rank give all sorts of injunctions, judgments. You get one from like the one that's happened to they got one from Port Harcourt. From there, somebody else went to Kebbi and got one. Another one went to Calabar and got that. The same court judges. Nowhere in the world is that done. And the problem has always been our problem is it that of the Constitution or those implementing the Constitution? And most times people say, oh, the Constitution. And I don't see it as the Constitution. Because there's no Constitution anywhere in the world. But our leaders and those that are with the responsibility of implementing the Constitution, are they doing the right thing? And so it's quite unfortunate when you have this kind of things happening. And they are just exposing the judiciary to real people. And that is where the NBA, the SC has to come into play. The Chief Justice has won High Court judges from 6 states. So let's see what will come out of that. But this is not the first time we are seeing it. Has happened. Look at the primaries in Anambra State. APC, PDP, and Lily. Each and every one of these candidates will get all sorts of some we go as far as Anambra, as far as our Medugri and the rest of the injunction, and which is new. Would that be considering the fact that the court even has that jurisdiction? That in law, there's what's called jurisdiction. If you don't have a jurisdiction on a person, you cannot vote on it. And that is what is happening. So I hope that the chief justice of the Federation and the agency will bring the prestige as a deterrent to most of the judges that are just given at judgments and injunctions here and there, turning me to just I don't know what to even do. Yeah. But there be someone, let's see what the Chief Justice will come out on that.
All right, and now to the southeast, where it's reported on the Nation this morning. It says 4th week of southeast ghost mode turns bloody. I think it was about 2 weeks ago that, about a week or 2 weeks ago, that there was reports that the sit-at-home order had been called off, and people should, of course, go about their regular business activities on Mondays. But, you know, even two Mondays ago, and of course, 2 days ago, another Monday, it seems like the Southeast, a lot of parts of the Southeast are still adhering mostly in Enugu, to the sit-at-home order. Where do you think this is going? And, at what point is this all going to end?
You remember the scenario I gave you, more like an adage I gave you, was it 2 weeks ago, when I was talking about the money and the cup. I'm sure about the video. I don't tell you about that. That is just like the cup have on your table there. You have put water and you see a monkey beckoning that, give me, please kindly give me water. Instead you have to the monkey, I give the monkey the cup, and he takes the cup. The problem is not giving the monkey the cup. The fact is that start drinking the water, you retrieve that cup from the monkey, to start dropping one branch or that you radically lose. And that is the situation we find out in the South, with those of us on that. When iPod started this, I was part of that, say this was not necessary, this is not the way to go. But it is so obvious that people have lost initiative. They started this idea, and along the line, after the first thing, they now say, oh, we'll cut it off. Don't forget, the first thing they said was, oh, some students are taking NECO. So because of that, let us just allow them to go and take NECO. But at the end of it all, people no longer listen to them. People have now decided to make it a win affair. And as I've always said, it's not because of the fact that they want to adhere to whatever I put in. Because of that, their lives. Most of them feel that if they go on Monday, some fourth and colonies will come out and attack the kill them. Some of them believe that it will be and open their shop. Some people will come and get it looted and set their fires. And so the best thing they have is just for them to count their losses, just stay at home that Monday, irrespective of whatever iPod will say. And the second stage to it is they also know that the government of the state not protect them. If they believe that the government and civil justice have what it takes to protect them from attacks, they will come out. But now, because of that fear, they have decided to join their cousins and just say, let us just stay home this month. Until there is no security and reassurance from the government and the civil justice, because of one day, they will continue to get that. And the question was that the economy of the world is continue to get on a daily basis. There are some people that get their business on a daily basis. They don't work on a day, they will not be able to eat. So that is the situation we find out. So anything about Onisha, most of the parts of the South is every day now is like a ghost. Nobody goes out, nobody does anything because of the fact that of fears they will be attacked. Until the government and most of the South raise up to the responsibilities and let them look and come out with a first state that you are free to go about businesses every Monday that we are there to protect you. We will continue to have this kind of situation.
Chris Wando, thank you very much. Always interested in hearing your perspective on major stories. We wish you a great day ahead. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, and do have a nice day.
Absolutely. All right, stay with us here on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Coming up, a little bit of history. What happened on this day, the 31st of August, many years ago. I'm going back to the year 1997 and 2015. We'll be back.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Here are success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
There has to be a decision point. The way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you? Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
have
showing my
references.
private parts. I want to put it
someone-
in my front room. And they said, you can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house. I said, well, it's my body and it's my front room.
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast here on Plus TV Africa. And now a little bit of history. We're going back and starting with the year 2015. Sometime last week we shared pretty much same story, and that was with regards to the fight against corruption when President Muhammadu Buhari had come in and had declared that there was going to be a probe of governments before him, Goodluck Jonathan and I believe Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, for their funding and for corruption in the funding in the fight against insecurity. But on this day in 2015, the Ijaw Youth Council called on President Muhammadu Buhari to extend the anti-corruption war all the way to 1999 and not just Goodluck Jonathan's government. It said, of course, Ijaw Youth Council, who basically kinsmen of from President Goodluck Jonathan, and said that he should skip or rather he shouldn't skip Obasanjo era, but instead go all the way back to 1999 to probe every single, alleged mismanagement of funds since 1999. He said, that he should, they said he shouldn't concentrate on just Goodluck Jonathan, and this was also, this was mostly actually promoted by Udeng's Eradiri, who was, of course, the leader of the Ijaw Youth Council. They said it was suspicious for Buhari to choose to probe only Jonathan's administration and leave out Obasanjo's regime. They noted that the Buhari regime, if they wanted to be taken seriously in the anti-corruption war, they have to go all the way back to 1999. It was stated then that the president's decision to leave out the 8-year period covered by Obasanjo's presidency suggests that the current anti-corruption crusade is being manipulated to spare some sacred cows. Well, that was, of course, the reaction of the Ijaw Youth Council to President Muhammadu Buhari's, declaration of a corruption war in the previous administration of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Also on this day, and this is a sad one now, it's the death of one of the most famous people in the world. One of the most, they call her our mother's favorite person, and that was Princess Diana. She died on this day in 1997 in a car accident in Paris. She was leaving, I think an event and heading back to a hotel when the car crashed after, they were allegedly being chased by paparazzi. Her driver, Henry Paul, according to autopsy reports, was way above the alcohol limit to be driving and crashed into one of the pillars in a tunnel in France. But her death basically brought up a lot more controversy and a lot more conversations concerning who she was and, the reasons why, there were conspiracy theories that she may not have died in a, just a regular accident, but that she was actually murdered. And that was because of Dodi Fayed, her boyfriend at that time, son of an Egyptian billionaire. There was also rumors that she may have been pregnant at that time. She had gotten a divorce from Prince Charles also at that time. And also, the Princess Diana, because of the life that she lived, as a princess, it basically was rumored, or it basically looked like she went very, very much against the British establishment and all that it stood for. She got herself involved in politics, got herself involved in a lot of things that, she felt were doing good, talking about HIV, landmines, human trafficking, some of all the things that you would expect a princess. And of course, you can see it in today's world that a lot of the royals stay silent, don't bother themselves course, to, get involved in politics and, governance and some of the things that are going on in the world. But Princess Diana was not that person. She was, a very, very huge, humanitarian. She was a person who didn't want to stay silent when she saw ills going on in different parts of the world. And it was described as going against the establishment. And also because of a relationship with Dodi El Fayed. There were rumors that she was pregnant and that the royal family would not accept her, mothering a child from, that person at that time. Conspiracy theories concerning her death, said so much also. Why an autopsy wasn't carried out, why her blood sample wasn't taken after she died, why the cameras at the tunnel suddenly, all 11 of them suddenly stopped working a night before the accident. Who exactly was driving the car that tipped their Mercedes and made it drive into the pillar in the tunnel? Who are the motorcycle riders that were, seemed to be following the Mercedes just before it got into the tunnel? There's a lot of, many conspiracy theories. And of course, why a proper autopsy wasn't carried out on Princess Diana and her boyfriend at that time. And some of all those questions. Was the accident and the impact of the accident also big enough to have killed Princess Diana? Was she injected with something after the accident? Some of all those questions were things that were never answered. And even till date, there's still no actual figures or proof of how fast the Mercedes was driving. And, it feels like a lot of those questions were swept under the rug and where, they decided to let those things, just pass. And those are some of the reasons why, it's been rumored here and there that she was murdered and not, didn't just die in an accident. Pretty much the same thing with who killed John F. Kennedy. Some of the things that we may never know in the world that we live in. There's some of these, bits of information. And also, who really was responsible for 9/11? There's a very, very interesting things that have happened in our time that the truth may never, ever be revealed. But anyway, on this day in 1997, the world lost one of its favorite people, Princess Diana. All right, stay with us. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we're getting into our first major conversation for today. It is about the ASUU strike. The union has threatened to once again go back on strike after the federal government failed to go through with the promises made in the last memorandum of action that was signed after they called off the last strike. We'll get into that conversation after the short break here on Plus TV Africa. Stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast. Our first major conversation today is on the Academic Staff Union of Universities and their threat to once again go back on strike. We're speaking this morning with the ASU President, Emmanuel Osodeke, Professor, I beg your pardon, Emmanuel Osodeke. Thanks for joining us, Professor Osodeke.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you. I've read through the report in the news, and of course, some of the things that you've mentioned as the reasons, ASU might be going back on strike. But I would like you to, quickly share with us. So let's hear from the horse's mouth.
Well, thank you very much. What I actually said is that we're not sure we're going on strike tomorrow. What we said was that government gave us the end of this month to ensure that all the issues that we're having problem with are resolved. But up to now, none of those issues have been resolved. Among these issues are, number one, as of that meeting, they showed us evidence that 30 billion naira is CBN account, and that money could be transferred within a short period so that they can be allocated to universities to develop their infrastructure. But up to now, that money has not been transferred. And even that money has not been allocated to the university on paper. Two, they also show evidence that they had mainstreamed our EAA and that it was part of the supplementary budget, 22 billion, and that it was for 2021. Up to now, we have not heard from them. On the third one was that the issue of UTAS, our University Transparency and Accountability Solution, which we believe is a good alternative to IPs that creating problem within the university system. They indicated that there's only one thing left, and that is that there's a need for us to demonstrate the UTAS to the end users, which are the bursary unit of the university and the registry, which we did more than 2 weeks ago. And up to now, we have not heard from the NISDA, who is supposed to do the test. When in 2019 to early 20, when we were on strike, they promised that within a very short period, these UTAS will be tested and approved, and it can be used for the payment of university salaries. As I speak to you, so we have some of our colleagues for the past 16 months have never received any salary. We have people receiving what we refer to as stated salary. That is, you are a professor and you wake up one morning and you get 120,000 naira, which is less than 25% of your salary. All our colleagues who are from outside the University Universal, all our colleagues who are from outside the country, who are on contract, by our law, if you are a foreigner, you cannot get a full-time job. Many of our colleagues who have that job, some have been sacked, some are not any salary because these looters, these are IPs, did not take care of them. And when you go all over the world, you enter a university, one of the indices for ranking a university is the idea that is global, that you have people who are from all over the world working in a university. But in Nigeria, we're even going to a village. When you enter a typical university in Nigeria, 90% of the academics are from that state, which is not the global best practice. Till today, we've not heard from them. We also have the issue of a state university. If you find out the proliferation of university, the governor just wake up one morning, take a paper to the National Assembly, and within 2 or 3 days, 4 universities are created. And these governors who cannot fund one they have, why is that how university should be? So we also talk about that there's a need to have a stringent measure put in place by National Assembly to ensure that you don't just wake up and start a university in your village and you go. The next governor comes and start another university in the village. So that's another one also. We also discussed the issue of this visitation panel, that there's a need to release the report as quickly as possible. Those are some of the issues we discussed. And then finally, we also discussed the issue of renegotiation between ASU and federal government. The last time this agreement, this agreement we are using today, was approved in 2009. As of 2009, a professor earned more than 2,000 naira per month in Nigeria, $2,000 to $3,000 per month. Today, a professor earns less than $800 per month. How can you attract the best brain if your salary is less than $800 per month? And that's why if you look at the doctors, they are living.
No, sorry, Prof. Can you take that again? You said in 2009, a professor earned how much?
In 2009, the salary of a professor is equivalent to about between $2,000 and $3,000 per month. $2 to $3 per month. Today is less than $800 per month. That $800, you can convert it. A typical professor earns about 400,000. When you multiply 400,000 by 500, for example, as the exchange rate, it's less than 800. Would that sustain this system? Can we be one of the best universities in the world? You have such salary. Can we attract best brain? So that is the problem. The team with the stock. Up till now, we had a discussion with government, we had a negotiation with their team, and we are reached a conclusion in May. Up till now, the government has not told us. They went to the principal with the government to give them permission to sign that agreement. But up till now, we've not heard a word from them. Those are the issues for which we said government should implement. And we met early in August. After that meeting, they promised to reach us by the end of August. But today is the last day of August, we've not had anything from them. And we told them at that point that if at the end of August, nothing is done, then the government should be held responsible for whatever happened. That was my statement. That whatever happened to the system, the government should be held responsible for failing in their responsibility. That was my statement.
All right. So, Prof, so what you're saying is that all of these demands that the government agreed to, they haven't taken any steps on any of them?
Not even one of all the issues, even the simplest one of transferring money from an account in central bank to another account in central bank. They say it's too difficult. You know, by the rule today, all federal accounts are in CBN. Hope you are aware. So if it's to transfer money from an account they showed us in CBN to another account within CBN, called the need assessment account, they cannot do it in three weeks, then something is wrong.
So what then do you think is a challenge here? And have you been able to get any feedback from the government before today?
We've not got feedback. All I attempt to get to them, they won't respond.
All right, so I want us to go, one after the other and look at the UTAS versus IPPIS. What was the government's challenge with using UTAS?
This thing started in 2013. And when we met with government, we told government that these IPs cannot cater for the diversity of university. University is not like a civil service where you have a single salary structure, or you have just, in a university, it's diverse. You have foreigners working in Nigerian university, they should be working. Then you have contract that these their so-called IPs cannot capture the university, for which we agreed to set up a committee to come up with alternative, and they disappeared in 2014. We didn't hear from them again. Until 2017, they came up and had to force everybody to that program. And today, everyone knows that what we're saying is correct, because the system is being gradually emasculated. People are paid salary as it pleases the Accountant General Office. I can tell you, 2 months ago, Unilag, in July, a professor earned 407,000 naira salary. A student lecturer earned 27,000. It happened in many of the university. And what was the issue? They just sat down and deducted whatever they want to deduct and pay whatever pleases them. Then the next month, we were told that a number of our colleagues and people, even those who registered, were paid double salary. But when we investigated, we found out it was not correct. Only a few were paid double salary, but people were threatening that they were paid double salary to be deducted. These are the crises we have with the IPs. But UTAS is designed for the university system, but they gave us a challenge, which we took. And within 3 months, we developed a better alternative. We have tested this alternative at the National Assembly to the Senate President. We have demonstrated it to the Accountant General Office. We have demonstrated it to vice chancellors and registrars and bursars. We have also demonstrated it to the bursary unit, staff in charge of payroll in bursary unit, and personnel in the registry. And nobody has complained about this program. It's homegrown. It will cost nothing. It's free for this country, made in Nigeria. Not this one, the IP that is made outside the country. All our data are sent to the to their domain in outside the country, which is not done anywhere in the world. And that's created so much problem in the system, you can check. Even the doctors and what have you, everybody has to do with that. The civil service even. But everybody is being masculated. No check. People are being recruited without the call to the center. And what have you? It's a big crisis, and there's a need for government to look at our homegrown program and use it for the system. We shouldn't be begging the foreign people all the time. We have the brain. And our brain can develop whatever you think of this country if we are challenged. But this country prefer to go out and get some people from there to develop whatever pleases them at their own rate, and we pay heavily. Nigeria is paying heavily for IPs, very heavily, and which is unnecessary. When you can do subsidy in your country, and there are checks and balances. In IPs, there is none. I can pay you what he likes. Who is checking them? But if a university pays, there are checks in the system that will ensure that what universities is doing with users are controlled. But now there's nothing. It's just I can't determine who will pay it, how do you pay it, how much you pay.
Okay, and now I want us to, talk also on one of the things that I noticed or I read in the report. It says that the federal government has stopped taking ASU's calls. Who has ASU been calling in particular?
Well, I think I just press something, but we made calls to the minister, made calls to all of them. So I think that I just off the line.
So which of the ministers are you referring to now?
The Minister of Education.
Okay, and there's no one picking the calls there or returning your calls.
Like I said, those ones should not be the issue now.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to clarify. I just wanted to clarify if that was.
If at the end of today they did not respond to us, then we will know what to do.
Okay, and now you mentioned 30 billion naira investment development fund. I believe that's the same as the revitalization fund that was mentioned. Yes. Okay. Yes. Now, what are the true demands, and why does ASU need 30 billion naira for infrastructure development, while the universities are still earning from school fees and whatnot?
Thank you very much. The 30 billion is not for us. It is for the Nigerian university system.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
Is not coming to the university. Let me look at the background. As we speak today, our universities are not well funded. In 2012, the federal government set up a committee, its own committee, to go around the university and look at the state of infrastructure. And that committee gave a report, really need assessment report, that highlighted the problem in the system. We have a university today that's at that time, I think you see there, where chemistry, they are using Bunsen burner, they are using stove as Bunsen burner. We have a university where you have 16 students in one room as hosted. And each of the students have to have a stove.
Professor, can you hear us? All right, seems we've lost Professor Osudeke, the president, Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. The conversation is really about talk about going back on strike at the end of today, the 31st of August. The professor says that the federal government has not, gone forward with some of the promises made in the last memorandum of action that was signed. That includes the revitalization fund, the 22 billion naira that was also promised to the union and to lecturers. Prof, can you hear us now?
I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Okay, brilliant. Yes, we can. Welcome back. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I didn't hear you very well. Can you repeat it?
Yes, go ahead. I want you to go on with what you were saying.
So what we are saying is that this money is part of that 1.3 trillion. You recall in 2014, 2013, 2 billion were released. They agreed they will release 2 billion every year for 5 years. 2 billion were released in 2014 during Jonathan era. And between then and now, they have reached 20, 30, and what have you, which is not solving the problem. So this fund that is going to be released is also from that fund, which we believe will also help to upgrade some of this equipment you have in the university. So they agree, and the money they said is there. They showed all the evidence, showed all the bank statement from CPN, showing that you still have 34 billion naira in that account. We indicated that the Ministry of Education said they were going to write to CPN to transfer the money to need assessment account. And for us, to ensure that that money is not mismanaged, there's a committee put in place known as the Implementation Monitoring Committee. That committee was supposed to now sit down and allocate that university money to university based on need. But till now, that committee have not met. So that is the problem with that people.
Yeah, on the average, how, I'm not sure if you have this information, but on the average, how much was, each university meant to get from that 30 billion?
Thank you. That is what the IMC ought to do. They will sit down and look at each university, look at their size, and then the year, the problem they have, and then decide how much to get. That's what the committee will do. And money that is well spent. That's the idea of that IMC meeting, to look at those particular how much each university should get.
Okay, Prof, there's people who have mentioned that it maybe is time that we look also closer at what universities make annually and how some of these funds can be used to better fund infrastructure. Because it's heartbreaking, like you mentioned, 16 people staying in one room in a university. That's not even human and convenient for learning. I've seen also videos of some university hostels, and it's really, really heartbreaking seeing that human beings live in those conditions or have to use those bathrooms. So has ASU also taken time to speak with vice chancellors to see how, in any way, that they can also fund certain details of infrastructure here and there?
Thank you very much. If you watch today, the federal universities and most state universities are not charging tuition fee. What they are charging, they don't have charges. For example, the ICT development, ICT levy, they pay for hostel accommodation, they pay for health, medical services, and what have you. These are what they are paid, they pay, which they are supposed to use specifically for some of those seats. Are you following? So yes, that is what they are supposed to pay. But I also agree with you that in many of these universities, these funds are mismanaged, which we are also working on now. I can agree with you. The funds are not properly used. Two, we are hearing now, I hope it's not true, that even the federal government is trying to get this vice chancellor to remit between 20 and 40% of this fund to the what do you call it? This account where they share money
account.
as part of revenue generation, which is not correct. The student could have paid for ID card and want to take 20-30% of the money to go and put into what do you call it? Their debt account for sharing. I don't think it makes sense. That's one of the problem we're having. Are there interferences by the ministries? As we speak, so on a yearly basis, not less than 30 to 40 group who want to visit university for XY team, which is not necessary in those days. It's not necessary. University are autonomous community. But today, all the vice chancellors are being put to that pressure. Today, somebody called them, we want to Abuja. This one they call you, then they send teams. Even a team went to a university to look at number of people who are died in the university. If a team from a ministry visited university to look at how many people who are died. These are just interferences and creating problem in the system. And I think they should allow university to run as autonomous that have autonomy, and there are also steps on how the presidency can step in by serving visitation every 5 years. And at the end of that visitation, you can deal with those visitors that have mismanaged money. But if you watch out, until at our last strike, for 11 years, the president did not send any visitation to the university, which is completely wrong. So if these checks are implemented as they are stated in the law, we will not have the VC mismanaged. But I can assure you, we are also working on that as a senior, and we are going to let you know in future. By the time we do our investigation, in many of the universities, the fund are also business money.
Yeah, before we move on, I think it's important that that conversation is had. Because if those things are not checkmated, then, Nigerian students will continue to, of course, bear the brunt of these, bits of mismanagement here and there. Vice chancellors have a lot of questions to answer. It's pretty much the same thing with CMDs in hospitals across the country with regards to mismanagement of funds. But ASU, I hope that you can get with that. Some other thing that I want to ask you, and these are just ideas. Hopefully we'll get to speak with the government sometime this week and get their own side on why they've not been able to fulfill the promises made in the Memorandum of Action. But some other thing that I want to ask is, Prof, I'm sure you've also looked at universities outside Nigeria and see how they also derive funding. You see a lot of universities doing very, very interesting research, being able to sell courses, online courses, and a person in Ibadan, can attend an online course from Yale or from any part of the world. Where do you think Nigerian universities are also failing with regards being able to self-fund and generate income for themselves better? I don't know if they're working enough on new ideas with which they can fund themselves, they can generate income for the university.
Thank you very much. This is actually one of the outcomes of that need assessment report. You see, where we are today in the world, you need well-equipped laboratories to do meaningful research. To do meaningful research that will be accepted what a laboratory as a bossy burner. If you apply for a grant, you do that laboratory, will you get a grant? So what we are saying that bring the university to world standard, to standard that they can compete with any other university for grant, compete with any university for funding, and then you to be funded. That is what we are talking about. Place the standard of the university to such a way that they can compete with any other one within the world to get grants, to get international grant that we are talking about, and what have you. That is where we are. Like I told you, you guys want to spend some money to buy a piece. It took us ASU, funded by us, in millions.
It seems we've also lost sound from the ASU president there, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke. I hope that we can reconnect with him. These are really just looking at different angles with which the Nigerian universities seem to not be properly functioning. And of course, getting deeper into the conversation concerning the call for another strike or going back on strike by ASU if the federal government fails to fulfill their promises by the end of today. And that's what I'm going to be asking next. Is that a likelihood that there will be a strike? And, what is the fate of those who are currently in universities? 2020 was a tough year for Nigerian students. If you remember, there was a long strike side by side with the COVID-19 pandemic. Are we ready to, of course, relieve those times again? Professor, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, so now I want to speak about, what happens after today. What is the likelihood of ASU once again downing tools after midnight today if the federal government does not respond to your calls?
Thank you very much. Our friends in the press, my press conference, my speaking with the media, I'm not saying we are going on strike tomorrow. I never. What I said is that if at the end of this month, federal government did not implement what they told us on the 2nd of August that they will implement, then the country should hold the government responsible. And in my Baba, we don't just wake up one morning and go on strike. It's a process starting from the branches up. So we are not going to just say tomorrow we will start a strike. Our union will don't behave that way. But our organs will start meeting. We're starting meeting by 3rd. We're going to start some meetings and we'll look at the issues. Then we'll take it off from there. We didn't say we are going on strike at the end of the month. I've never used such words.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And that's also a very interesting point that you've made. I also want your thoughts on Nigerian students who, of course, went through a very, very torturous 2020. The strike and, of course, combined with the COVID-19 and some of all of that. A lot of them have had their graduation years delayed, longer than they should have. Do you have concerns as the president of ASU for these students? Do you have students or children rather, who are currently in Nigerian universities?
Thank you very much. All my children are in public university. Those two have graduated, but the other two are in public university. But let me tell you.
Oh, well, once again, of course, every now and then we have to deal with these network challenges. We're speaking with the ASU president, and I would really, really love to hear his response to that question. Hopefully we can reconnect with him soon. What is the fate of Nigerian students from the 3rd? Like he's just mentioned, that they're not necessarily going on strike today, But, they would start discussions, and from the third, they would continue with those discussions and see what the next steps are to be taken. Will the Nigerian government respond? Will that money that is supposedly with the Central Bank of Nigeria be paid to the ASU account or not? What is the next steps that needs to be taken with regards IPPIS and UTAS? These are some of the burning questions with, regards some of all of this. And how much better can the Nigerian government fund education, fund universities, put them in a better shape? Look at the state of hostels that Nigerian students live in. It is heartbreaking. Look at the level, of infrastructure that is in the research laboratories across Nigerian universities, public universities to be precise. It is really, really heartbreaking. And, you can basically watch some of these universities dilapidate. You can see them break down over time. The universities that you see, that are, currently you could call the pride of a nation 20 years ago. But, you can't find any of all that, state of infrastructure in those same universities today. We'll take a short break and we'll be back on The Breakfast. Don't go anywhere.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Seize it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, you know, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, you know, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Nigeria, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Welcome once again, and of course, apologies for not being able to conclude the conversation with the ASU president. We hope that we can bring that back sometime this week. Our next conversation is moving to Borno State, where the leaders in Borno State have welcomed repentant terrorists and a program to accept them back into society. It was one of the things also discussed on this platform yesterday on Plus Politics. We're bringing that back this morning with Mr. Opunabo Inko Taria. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Good morning.
Great to see you again. Now let's, get into this. There's numerous, views concerning this. It's actually just two sides of the coin. It's either one person says this is completely mind-blowing that anybody would even consider repentant terrorists and welcoming them back into society. And they should instead be jailed and made to face the full wrath of the law. That's one side. There's also those who say that, seeing the peculiarities with regards to Nigeria's fight against terror, you can't necessarily jail all these people, and we have to find a way to, ease them back into society, because not even all of them, decided to be terrorists. Some of them were forced into it. What is your perspective, Mr. Inkutaria?
To me, it is not only irreason, but the height of insanity to ever think that these terrorists are going to or should be forgiven for the sins committed without necessarily any penalty, because that will definitely encourage impunity. I can tell you that the issue of apostasy, that is to say they have repented of their sin, is just being framed by so-called sympathizers and enablers of these groups. If you recall, before now, Mr. President, before he became a president, had argued that if the Niger Delta military could be given amnesty by former President Yaradua, then the Boko Haram people must also be given amnesty, because there will not be any justification for any discrimination. Forgetting that the two issues are not the same in any material particular. One is a terrorist group, they are bandits. The other ones are just people who have been oppressed, marginalized, their flora and fauna destroyed, sources of livelihood destroyed. They are sentenced to death on a daily basis as a result of the pernicious air they inhale. And so we are so much spirited out of their region with little or nothing to show for it. And so despite all the cries, all their prayers to the federal government, nothing was done. And the best way to command the federal government's attention was to stop the oil exploration and exploitation. This region did not bend its spleen on other states, on other people. This region did not, I'm talking about Niger Delta, now did not say, this is what you must do, this is how we want you to live. It wasn't an ethnocentric war. It was a situation where they needed to save their lives, to save their property, and also to be major beneficiaries of what is taken out of their region. So they are not the same in any way. They did not invade states, they did not invade territories, they did not go to kill people like these criminals, these terrorists are doing. So they are not the same. Now that same person who advocated for amnesty for this person is the same person that is in office today. What do you expect? Of course, it's going to insulate them from prosecution. It's going to insulate them from any form of condemnation. And that is what they are doing. So the issue of amnesty or the issue of imprisonment, that the jails are filled, our prisons are filled, our correction centers are filled, no problem. Then what I expect the federal government to do is to release all the criminals in the prison. They should go and release them. Some of them are there for stealing goats. Some of them are there for stealing fowls. Some of them are there for stealing 20,000 naira. We are talking of human people that have killed, committed genocide. And you're saying just because the prisons are filled, you can. One of the IDP camps, the federal government has not been able to address the problems associated plaguing the IDP camps. And you're saying you want to release these people and you want to grant them amnesty and reintegrate them into the system. No, that is madness. How are you going to reintegrate them into the system when you cannot address the issues of the IDP camp? Then let us also not be oblivious of what happened to El-Rufai, who once attempted this and tried to, reintegrate them into the system, give them money. They went back. These are criminals. These are recidivists. They can never ever change. So what is going to happen? They will come in. When they come in, they reintegrate, pretend to reintegrate, then get more apostles, get more people into their, recruit more people into their fold, and get information on how to tackle, finally, the final onslaught on the federal government. And Mr. President cannot say he's not aware of this. He's very much aware. A commando recently on a sister station who was part of the war against terrorists, against these bandits. So on your sister station went ahead to say, it went viral, to say that the federal government is aware because some of them are members of the cabinet ESCO at the national level, some of them are in the National Assembly, some of them are in National Law. This was said on your sister station. Even the so-called bandits have come on air to say that and mention, not just to say, mention those who are behind them. So you can see the complicitousness of the federal government in this whole thing. And they are trying to look for a soft landing for these criminals. Otherwise, can you say,
all right, hold on, Mr. Inko-Tariah.
Let the court. Okay.
Yeah. Hold on. I want to, bring in, one of the conversations or parts of the conversation we had yesterday with a security expert, Kabir Adamu, he pointed out that, and it was from a question that I asked, whose responsibility really should it be to offer forgiveness? Is it those who are in the IDP camps who have suffered, lost family members, lost their means of livelihood, lost, basically the trajectory of their lives because of the actions of these terrorists? Is it those people who are still in IDP camps, or is it the Borno state government and its leaders? And so he pointed out that the persons who, of course, have created this conversation about accepting them and welcoming them back into society and some of all of that are the leaders in Borno State, traditional leaders and the likes, who basically, we could say, speak on behalf of the people. So do you think that maybe, there is ways that, in that state, in Borno State, that there are angles to some of these things that we may not be aware of that has made the leaders feel, well, we don't have any choice and would have to accept these people. They are, still our sons and cousins and fathers.
I don't think the leaders in Borno State are the ones calling for amnesty, calling for forgiveness. Probably the governor. And definitely the traditional rulers might not want to go against the governor for fear of being dethroned. Most of these are governors as tyrants. They are dictators. I must commend at this point the Plateau State House of Assembly for what it is doing, for daring the governor. How many state houses of assembly will do that, will have that gumption to do that? So I sincerely disagree, because these traditional rulers probably have their cousins, sisters, brothers, in-laws, nephews, and co who have been victims of this criminals, this terrorists that the federal government has refused to name terrorists, but will name IPOP a terrorist group. So these persons will never call. It is the governor. It is a mesh. The governor is only, just like Gumi, it is the hand of the voice of Bishop or the hand of Jacob. The governor is only carrying out the orders of Mr. President, who is insisting on grading for this person. That will tell you his predisposition, his inclination, his sympathy, daring against the constitution of our country that vests lands in the hands of governors. Mr. President is insisting on grace. Mr. President is calling for amnesty for this same character. It is not the governor speaking. The president is speaking to the governor just as he spoke to Gumi. You remember Gumi had threatened that unless amnesty is granted, this massacre will go on. Shortly after Mr. President, when he left his state, said gave an order, purported order, marching order to the military to crush this person. Gumi came out to say, no, unless amnesty is granted, it's going to be an exercise in futility. They were just preparing the ground. They were flying the kite. They were just preparing the grounds for what is going to take place now. So I don't think the leaders in Borno, how are you going to explain to a man who is in IDP camp, whose hope is dashed,
and that's what
of a brighter future should rest?
It is one of the things that I mentioned yesterday.
That you have granted amnesty to a man that is responsible for his woes. The rule of law case and administration of justice roundly subverted. Standards of justice must not blow peacefully. It is not allowed. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. A man who steals 100,000 naira is languishing in jail for how long? And somebody commits genocide and you say, no, grant him amnesty. It is madness. It is madness.
Mr. Inko-Tariah.
How are you going to pacify? How are you going to assuage? How are you going to assuage the victims? How are you going to assuage? You are not even talking of the dead. You cannot resurrect the dead. Those that are in IDP camps as a result of the dastardly acts by these criminals. How do you pacify them? They will still go back to the same community to live with these same human beings. You are just portraying the evil day.
Mr.
There will not be any sanity in the society anymore. Everybody will commit crime with impunity, believing that one day amnesty will be granted. And the granting of amnesty has been abused in this country.
All right, hold on. It's a very sensitive discussion, and your concerns, have been echoed, in many other places. A lot of people have said pretty much the same things. That it seems very unfair, but there's also those who say, well, there's different angles to some of all of this, that might make it difficult. And that's, if you also look at the Operation Safe Haven, the details of Operation Safe Haven weren't necessarily just, military crushing of, terrorists. There's also parts of it that, brought about, accepting some of these people who surrender, reinviting them back into society. But something else that I want to mention is our criminal justice system. Mr. Inkotari, I want you to speak on this. Our criminal justice system, for a long time, we as Nigerians have complained that the criminal justice system is ineffective. It takes a long time to prove anyone guilty. Court cases take years. There are people who, have been arrested, even before this government, who have been arrested for terrorism, that we still cannot point out 10, 15, 20 who have been sentenced to jail or sentenced to life imprisonment or sentenced to death for terrorism. And so there is that lapse in the criminal justice system. Don't you think that's also one of the things that has been considered here? That, if you arrest all these people, where are you going to put them? The criminal justice system takes too long, to find anyone guilty.
Well, before I go into that, let me quickly state here that even if you have to consider amnesty for these terrorists, which I'm averse to, vehemently averse, one major precondition should be the release of all those in captivity with immediate effect. And to a large extent, that is to some level of sincerity. Not one human being should be left behind by the captors. Everybody must be released. Having said that, the issue of the criminal justice system in this is so unfortunate. Not that we don't have the laws. We have the laws. But the implementation has always been the bane. And that is as a result of questionable characters in office, right from the police to the judiciary. You can imagine the conflicting ex parte court orders from courts of coordinate jurisdiction. And I commend the CJN for inviting the head of judges. Although what will the head of courts do? The head of courts will not actually do anything other than come back and issue warnings. They should have invited the judges involved because those ex parte orders were procured. And I have a certain conviction that the judges would have been corrupt to have procured those things because there was no need to grant an ex parte because the rest that is the subject and matter is not to be destroyed. So what is the rush in them without hearing the other side of the party? So they are corrupt, I say today. They are to be invited and disciplined. The lawyers that are also involved should also be cautioned by the NDA. I almost said this. Now, you're talking of this expeditious dispensation of justice. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Expeditious dispensation of justice. And that is simple. Most of these judges, take a look. Take, for example, Borno State now. You have a case against one of these terrorists in court. Given the inclination of the governor, talking of amnesty, unless you're a judge with a very strong character, they'll keep adjourning.
Yes.
That is if the governor has not called you already. If they have not called you already to discuss, you keep adjourning so that you don't offend Mr. Governor, because he might be the one responsible for your appointment as a judge, even when you're not qualified to be a judge.
So, Mr. Inkotaria, let's create a scenario. Let's assume that the governor himself.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to create now.
But this is.
They all will be tried in one court. Understand that? Not in one court. They'll be tried in courts in various jurisdictions, not in one court.
Yes.
So I'm trying to tell you what my delay is. I can use the Dasuki's case as a very good example. Colonel Dasuki, where a court admitted him to bail and Mr. President said no. He cannot divorce that matter from this. Mr. President said no. How can the court grant it? On national television, when he's guilty. President had already pronounced him guilty. So in this case, the governors and president would have pronounced them innocent. And the hands of the judge might be tied. It's a convoluted situation. That's the point I'm trying to make. So the judgment, as I said, the tempest of justice must not flow fitfully. The judgment must not be based on the feelings of Mr. President, the dictates of Mr. Governor, but has to be based on facts before it. But how many judges will have that gumption to dispense justice? It is justice denied. It is not because the judge, of course, we have what we call the House party. All parties must be heard.
Yes.
But most times these judges employ these very stupid techniques of long adjournments. And they tell you, oh, because the lawyer, as a judge, you can say, okay, this matter will not be adjourned beyond social time. Judges do it. But when you are compromised, you give long adjournment. And that is responsible for prison congestion. Under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, magistrates are supposed to visit prisons in their real jurisdiction. Are they doing that now? They should be sanctioned for not doing it. Are they doing that now? In order to decongest the prison. Because most of them are waiting trial. Most of them are bailable offenses. What are they doing in prison? Even where the gods give orders, admit them to bail, the security of refuge make it impossible. They try to steal the effort, the bail efforts. They try to steal it. So it's a convoluted system. And why are they doing so? They believe Mr. President or Mr. Governor is interested in that matter. If the President or Governor is not interested,
all right. Seems we may have lost Opunabo Inkutaria. The conversation is about Borno State and its leaders and governor, discussing and creating a space to accept repentance terrorists. Yes, welcome back, Mr. Inkutaria.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
thank
can.
You.
Yes.
So that's why I said it's a convoluted system. In this particular instance now, I can tell you that if they are charged, even the federal government will surreptitiously, indirectly by proxy provide lawyers for them. The Borno State governor will come out openly to provide lawyers for them because he's already pleading their case.
Well, that's why I was saying earlier that let's create a scenario where the Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum is very, very interested in justice. Because I don't want to put this conspiracy theory out that he is one of those who might be supporting an easy way out for these terrorists. We would instead just lean onto the fact that, yes, we have issues with our criminal justice system that needs to be fixed, and of course the political will to completely squash terrorism in Nigeria. I think our final question that I will throw at you is, with regards to the Nigerian government and those who have said that if the government was truly serious, that they would have won the war against insurgency a long time ago. Do you agree with this? And also, because the Senate President Ahmed Lawan was in the news a few days ago saying that they should create more spaces for terrorists to repent and insurgents to repent. Do you think, that seeing the numbers that have, according to news reports, come forward as repentant terrorists, do you think that is signs that the Nigerian government is actually winning the war against insurgency?
I doubt it. I think two things, because we're extrapolating. Two things. It's either the terrorists have suddenly realized that it is no longer business as usual compared to when you have the Buratai and Co in office, who were compromised, obviously compromised, because even their successors have said the money, they cannot even account for the money, the equipment purportedly purchased. NSA confirmed, corroborated that story. So they were compromised, no doubt about that. That's why a lot of us impugn the federal government's sincerity in trying to overwhelm, crush these terrorists. Now, it's either those their successors have come to realize that their successors might not toe the line of their predecessors, and so the best way is to retreat tactically in order to relaunch, and that's why they are calling for this. Or they are so-called enablers. I know you want to say no, you want to correct it, playing the devil's advocate like Gumi and Co. Because they are coming out to say he's speaking for them. So those are the enablers. So they are so-called enablers. I've told them, my dear, it is enough. Look at the Niger Delta militants. And for how long will you be in hiding? For how long will you be in the forest? Why not just come out and feign? That's why I say feign. Why not just come out and feign renunciation of whatever you're doing so that you can move freely in the society? I strongly believe and agree with Commodore Oluwami, who said this is an attempt by Buhari to Fulanize the country. Come out. The more we get reintegrated into the system, the more we are going to get converts. So if today only 10 persons have our sympathy, by the time we get reintegrated and launch again, we'll be extremely successful because we must have gotten another 5 on our side. That is just the strategy. That is, to me, that is the strategy. Not that the people are genuinely repentant. If you talk of those that we are coerced,
yes,
like you mentioned, those that we are coerced, of course, that's why we say subject them to the clinical prognosis of the legal lab. Let them go and prove their innocence. And if we know that genuinely, and whether you are coerced or not, that you are coerced is not an alibi, because you might be coerced and eventually fall in love with it.
Yeah.
That's the truth about it.
You know, I've also...
But you're doing it unwillingly. So that's why we say, and let them be subjected to all sorts of interrogation, not just come out and your sins are forgiven. Like Shomola said, when you move to APC, all your sins are forgiven. No.
Yeah. I've also seen, Ms. Nkotari, I've also seen a few people say that rehabilitation can be done in prison. You know, you can also still get to face the wrath of the law.
But it is no longer called prison. That's the only sense it was changed from prison to correctional center. That's the only sense of rehabilitation. That's the only, although it doesn't make any sense to me whether correctional center or prison doesn't change anything. But that's the only sense. That's why they changed it. That's why they changed it. So you are just supported exactly what I've said because you put it succinctly. So let them go to prison. Abroad, when people get their PhDs from prison, that is in abroad. They are actually correctional centers. But the bottom line is that the crime was not committed with impunity. So that it will serve as a deterrent to others. Otherwise, tomorrow, people will get up, I'll kill you. After killing you, I come out and declare I've repented and I'm sorry and I go scot-free. Is that not madness? Is that not a prescription for anarchy? That's a prescription for anarchy. After all, they've already prescribed it. They said we should defend ourselves. But you told me to defend myself without give me a license to carry AK-47. Is that not duplicity? Is that not a mockery? I mean, the whole system is in a mess. It's not just paraplegic. The system has collapsed. It's in coma. And the federal government is plunged in a morass, thinking of what to do and what steps to take. But by thinking of what to do, it is worsening the problem by its actions and inactions. That is where we are today.
Opunabo Nkotari, always very interested in speaking with you and hearing your perspective on issues. Truly appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining us, and of course, looking forward to another conversation soon.
Thank you so much, my brother. Absolutely. Where's my sister? She's not on air today.
No, she's not. She'll be back hopefully by Thursday.
Okay.
All right, sir. Have a good day. All right. It has been The Breakfast. Thank you so much for staying with us all through this morning. If you missed out on any of these conversations with the ASU president at first, and of course with Mr. Opunabo Nkotari, you can catch up on our social media platforms. Pretty simple, at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. And of course our YouTube channel. Subscribe at PlusTvAfrica or PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Osaugie Ogbonwa. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the results of tomorrow's election. Okay, you have it already, Abi.
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say.
The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
The way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to Qatar? Are you going to cut it? Is it going to leave a scar? And I said, am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you? Yes, but without showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, you can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house. I said, well, it's my body and it's my front room.
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6. So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
And now thanks for joining us on Plus News Brief. I am Destiny Momo. The face-off between the Plateau State House of Assembly and the state executive is taking a new dimension. And this is as the allegation of the sealing off of the premises of the State Assembly on Monday morning spread on social media. Recall that the Assembly last week, Wednesday, gave the state governor, Simon Lalong, 2 weeks ultimatum to act on the resolutions reached by the House on security. The Chairman House Committee on Information, Philippe Dasson, re-echoed the stance at a press conference on Friday.
Enough is enough. Yes. Plateau State, if he is no longer interested in governing us, we give him the free will to resign his appointment. As we know that we have competent hands, competent, passionate people on Plateau State that they will govern us. Yes. We are giving him this open letter that he should resign if he discover his competency cannot sustain him anymore.
Of course, in the premises of the Plateau State Assembly, sealed by His Excellency, that is Governor Simon Bakol Along, is not a visitor because he's the chief security of the state. So for whoever to say security have locked this place, we are not holding anybody than the governor. To tell the whole world that we will unlock this assembly because we own the government. We employ Governor Simon Bakol Along. He is our employee. We are, the citizens are the employers. We employ him, so he cannot dictate to us. He either dance to the interests of Plateau people or we will remove him.
We heard the speaker spoke this morning on China's television. We came down here because the House of Assembly has been sieged. We do not know who authorized that. So we want to know who give the security permission to do that.
And now, following increasing insecurity in Plateau, the Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven has warned residents against taking the law into their hands in the guise of self-defense. Media officer of the task force, Major Ishaku Takwa, gave the warning in a statement issued in Jos. Takwa faulted the consistent call on residents of the state to defend themselves, saying such calls would escalate the security challenges bedeviling the state. The media officer also urged citizens of the state to continue to give support to security agencies towards restoring lasting peace and security in the state. Takwa also advised the people to shun violence, hatred, and tolerate one another for peace to reign. And the Senate President Ahmad Lawan says Boko Haram insurgents surrendering to Nigerian troops should be encouraged. He reckons it's a welcome development. And Lawan said this when he visited the Sheikh of Borno, Alhaji Abubakar and Gabari, to condole on him over his elder brother's death in Maiduguri. He, however, said that the people were lucky to have the Buhari administration, which eventually changed the tide. And speaking on our program Plus Politics today, security expert Kabiru Adamu suggests that rehabilitating repentant Boko Haram members should go through a process. And the commanders who have blood on their hands shouldn't go through those processes.
Why are they surrendering? Are they surrendering because they have recanted on their ideology in the first place that led them to become terrorists? The answer is likely no. The reasons that we're hearing that is making them surrender are reasons around difficulty in their camps, then the fact that their commander has been killed, and the fact that the group that led to the death of their commander, which is the Islamic State in West Africa province, is giving them the option to either join in their fold or to go back to the Nigerian military. And it's all propaganda. Why are they...
And our reactions are now trailing the killing of the eldest son of Senator Bala Naala in Kaduna on Sunday. He was found dead in his room in Malali GRA, Kaduna. Deputy Chairman, Public Accounts Committee of the House of Reps, Abdullahi Saad Abdul Qadir, says new service chiefs showed up their game. And also security experts decried continued insecurity, particularly in northern Nigeria, as a serious threat that calls for urgent attention. Our correspondent has more.
Northern Nigeria has been in the grip of bandits, kidnappers and other violent criminals for some time now. Security operatives continue to grapple with the situation. Killings, endless cases of kidnap of school children, traumatized parents and more. House of Reps member Abdul Qadir and a legal practitioner speak on the killing of Senator Bala Naala's son. The new service chiefs now have their jobs cut out for them in ending terrorism.
The issue of insurgency, banditry and other forms of insecurity in the northern part of the country and indeed in the Federation at large, it is something that has taken a long time. It has been brewing, and we find ourselves today in a seemingly intractable situation. I believe there has been some improvement, but it is not at the level that we had expected.
It is now obvious that it is beyond them. And it is for that reason that one will want to say and appeal to the legislature and the judiciary to help the people in the sector of government to sort this out. Nobody is safe again in this country.
Security experts are certain that with the recent NDA attack, terrorists are showing dangerous signs gearing towards spelling absolute unrest in the country.
I wrote an article some years ago that Kaduna is a timepiece of Nigeria, right from the days of Lord Lugard. Wherever Kaduna goes shows you where the future of Nigeria is going. I mean, I can prove it for you through history. So, again, we are back to square one because the NDA was just another symbolic target to show everybody that nobody's safe. That's all.
Nigeria is grappling with diverse security challenges, more than a decade of Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, frequent deadly clashes between herders and farmers in several parts of the country. More is certainly required if there will be an end to this recurring decimal.
And now the international community of Red Cross ICRC says Nigeria accounts for 24,000 missing people, the largest missing case load on the continent, representing over half of those registered as missing in Africa. ICRC's public relations officer Aliyu Dawobe said more than 44,000 people across Africa have been registered as missing, with children accounting for over 45% of the cases at the time they were missing. According to him, August 30th is marked as the International Day of the Disappeared, and that ICRC stands with the families and relatives of the missing and commemorates with them, expressing its solidarity. He said the ICRC assures them that they are not alone and their loved ones are not forgotten. And also the DSS has released 8 of the 12 aides of Yoruba Nation agitator Sunday Igboho. A lawyer to the detainees, Okpelumi Olajengbesi, confirmed their release on Monday in Abuja. The detained persons have been in the custody of the security agency 61 days after they were arrested by security operatives in early July. And those released on August 30 are Abdulateef Onoalokpo and Tajuddin Irinloye, Dekola Ademola, Ayobami Donald, Uthman Adelabu, Olakunle Oluwapelumi, Raji Kazim, and Taiwo Tajuddin. The DSS, however, refused to release the remaining 4 persons, and this is contrary to an order of the court that granted bail to the entire 12 aides of the Yoruba Nation agitator in the custody of the agency. And those held back by the security agency include Amudat Babatunde, Abidin Shitu, Jamiu Oyetunji, and Bamidele Sunday. Yes, the Chief of Justice of Nigeria, Tanko Muhammad, has summoned the Chief Judges of Rivers, Kebbi, Cross River, Anambra, Jigawa, and Imo states to an emergency meeting. And this is part of the efforts to stem the recent wave of embarrassing and conflicting ex parte orders emanating from judges in their jurisdictions. The meeting between the CJN and the heads of courts concerned is a prelude to a larger NJC meeting likely to hold next week. And Governor Sanwo-Olu has won the prestigious Outstanding Political Brand Icon of the Year. The award is in recognition of his exceptional leadership ability and managerial excellence. The award was presented to the governor at the 8th Marketing Stakeholders Summit held in Lagos. PlusTvAfrica's State House correspondent Love Ikuku Oyedokun reports.
Marketing stakeholders gathered here for their 8th summit with the theme Rethinking the Blue Ocean Strategy in Uncertain Times. It's a celebration of craft and achievements of marketing professionals with industry practitioners across the country in attendance. Award presentations to deserving citizens also takes a highlight. The organizers believe that the recipients are change agents promoting future-fit businesses in the new normal.
Congratulations to the awardees tonight. I have no doubt that you deserve your awards. That's why you are here. You are at the table because you paid your dues. All I can say is that I wish you all the very best.
Lagos State Chief Marketer, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, is one of the deserving awardees.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, he's being honored today as the Outstanding Political Brand Icon of the Year. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the irrepressible, the impressive Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu.
For emotional connection with the electorates, for creating a city in which brand and advertising industry thrives, for these and many more. He promises his commitment to the growth of the profession by sustaining the state's investment in requisite infrastructure.
I know the importance that this industry plays, and I'm committed to its growth on a continuous basis. That is the reason we're building a resilient and a livable city that you all indeed will be proud of. To date, we have done over 2,000 kilometers of fiber ducts connectivity. We're still doing a phase 1 of 3,000. When we finish that, we'll do another 3,000 phase 2.
Many people believe that Nigeria's advertising industry is one of the best in the world, and perhaps encouragements like these are factors motivating the practitioners and the government in our commercial capital to make the industry what it is today. From Lagos, Love Ikuku Oyedoku, reporting for Plus TV Africa.
And a former national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Bamanga Tukur, is urging the leadership and members of major political parties in Nigeria to ensure the protection of the nation's democracy. Tukur believes this can be done if the parties let go of internal disputes. In a statement on Monday by his special advisor on media, Tucker said he decided to intervene because of the current bad blood and widening cracks in the major political parties. And then the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, is not starting its planned strike today. The president of the union, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, disclosed this to PlusTvAfrica this morning on the breakfast. But the deadline given the federal government to meet ASU's demand is still today. Professor Osodeke says the union will meet later to decide the next line of action. And now it's time for news from other parts of Africa. Nabil Karoui, leader of a liberal party which came second in the 2019 presidential election in Tunisia, has been arrested in Algeria along with his brother MP Ghazi Karoui. According to a private radio station, Algerian border police arrested the Karouis in northeastern Algeria, and their party is now waiting for official information from the Tunisian and Algerian authorities, who have not confirmed the arrest of the two brothers so far. And now, news on outside Africa. The United States has completed the withdrawal of its forces from Afghanistan, according to the Pentagon. The withdrawal involved the chaotic evacuation of thousands of Americans and Afghan allies to close out U.S. involvement there after 20 years of conflict. General Frank McKenzie, commander of the U.S. Central Command, told reporters that there has been a lot of heartbreak associated with the departure.
Lifted off from Hamid Karzai International Airport on August 30th, this afternoon, at 3:29 p.m. East Coast time. Well, I'll tell you, my dealing with the Taliban and the dealings of my commanders on the ground with the Taliban revolved around our determination to execute this operation, and the very flat statement we made to them that if you challenge us, we're going to hurt you. And I think they recognize that. And for their own purposes, this is something they wanted to have happen too. I can't foresee the way future coordination between us would go. I would leave that for some future date. I will simply say that they wanted us out. We wanted to get out with our people and with our friends and partners. And so for that short period of time, our issues, our view of the world was congruent. It was the same. Finally, I do believe the Taliban's going to have their hands full with ISIS-K, and they let a lot of those people out of prisons, and now they're going to be able to reap what they sowed. We did not get everybody out that we wanted to get out, at least so far, and I just look forward.
The United Nations Security Council has passed a resolution on Afghanistan that calls on the Taliban to honor its commitments to allow Afghans and foreign nationals to leave the country. The resolution passed with 13 countries in favor, none against, but Russia and China abstained. The resolution also calls for unhindered humanitarian access and that the human rights of women and minorities are protected. Russian Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia said his country was forced to abstain because the resolution ignored the Kremlin's principled concerns. And now armed robbers hit several banks in a small Brazilian city on Monday, using locals as human shields and leaving a trail of explosive devices. The robbers shot at police in an assault that killed at least 3 people. The midnight attack is the latest in a series of increasingly violent recent bank hits in Brazil. Experts believe a COVID-19 pandemic welfare program for poorer Brazilians has encouraged robbers to plan bold raids in sleepy regional cities where bank branches are storing more cash. And now in business news, residents of Graceland Estate of Baile in Akure North local government area of Ondo State have protested against outrageous electricity bills. The protesters gathered at the entrance to the office of the Benin Electricity Distribution Company in Akure and prevented the workers from entering.
I've been coming there to exploit us. They call their boys to come and exploit us. Every month, in house, we pay nothing less than 10, 15, 20,000 naira in the month. And if you do not pay it, they will just cut off your light. and we are telling them that you give us a prepaid meter. And even we have a transformer which they refuse to be installed, and they are just coming every month to exploit us.
We have even procured a transformer, and that transformer, they are not coming to install it. So how long can we continue to cope under this condition? The minimum wage in Nigeria is 30,000 naira, and they are bringing crazy bills like 60,000, like 80,000 every month. Please, the world should call BEDC to order, especially BEDC. Yes. They should call them to order. This suffering is too much. This exploitation is too much. We want meter. Yes. All we want is meter. We want prepaid meter.
I want to refer you to the NEC website. Every customer, whether you are metered or you are not metered, if you are not metered, there's a cap ceiling where every customer has to be metered. For every customer that belongs to every disco, there's a ceiling upon which we cannot be above, and that's what we maintain.
And on sports news, Cristiano Ronaldo trained with Portugal on Monday as they prepare for a World Cup qualifier against Ireland slated for Wednesday. The training session comes after Ronaldo reportedly completed a medical in Lisbon over the weekend ahead of a return to Manchester United. Ronaldo has reportedly agreed to personal terms on a 2-year contract with the Premier League club. Sky Sports has reported that the fee agreed for the 36-year-old Portuguese was around 15 million euros, plus a further 8 million euros in add-ons. And that's the news brief. For more, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Destiny Momo. Thanks for watching.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria with 351,861 hectares of land, is the authentic home of every tribe and tongue in Nigeria. The state, though small in landmass, is controversially the most populous state in the country, One of the neighborhoods in the state is Obalende, located in a Tiosa local government area. The area is strategically a historic site because before the relocation of administrative capital from Lagos to Abuja, it was the seat of power of the military head of state, the Dodon Barrack. Historically, a Royal West African Frontier Force, predominantly Hausa men, were initially camped on the land where the famous King's College is situated. Then there was a need for the use of the land, and the Oba of Lagos was said to have pressured the governor of Lagos to resettle the Hausa men and sold the land in what is now Obalende to the British colonial masters. After resettlement in the purchased land, the Royal West Africa Frontier Forcemen named the place Ibiti Obalewade, which translates to the place where the king drove us to. Obalende, though crowded, is famous for its nightlife and for its suya sport, with a junction popularly called Suya Junction. For ease of administration, former governor of Lagos State, Asewaju Bola Tinubu, created a